Thanks for joining me today. What happens when you go out to photograph a sunset and the sunset is just bland? You're expecting beautiful clouds at sunset to give you this like golden image, but those clouds have disappeared and all you're left with is just a blank sky, just a blue sky slowly turning orange, but there's no detail in the sky. And you know your image is just going to be flat because you're expecting those clouds to be the centerpiece of your image. You might have a bit of foreground in your image, but without the clouds in the sky, the whole scene just looks flat. Well, today I want to share my experience that I had a few weeks ago during the school holidays, where we went up to the Sunshine Coast for just a couple of days to just chill out. And the whole day I could see clouds about and I was very excited for the sunset that was to come. But as I walked down the beach, I realized that the clouds were not there. They were in another section of the sky where the sun wasn't going to set. So I decided to photograph the sunset without having the sunset in my image. I was photographing away from the sunset. I still was going to get that golden light, but I wasn't going to get the actual sunset in there. And I want to show you the images that I got and also the way that I took these images, because a lot of time when we plan for a sunset, what are we expecting? We're expecting the sun in our image. How often have you actually thought of photographing against the sun, having that beautiful golden light in your image, but not the actual sun? Have you ever looked totally opposite where the sun's setting, 180 degrees from the sunset, and looked at that golden light that could be radiating across a tree, across some buildings, or whatever your scene is, 180 degrees on the other side of the sunset? Well, this is what I did on that day. Here I was at Pink Cushion Island. This is beautiful. I've got this golden light radiating on this island, but I've put the sun at 90 degrees because the scene dictated that. I would have liked to put the sun directly behind me, but the island just didn't look nice. This was the only way that I could get beautiful photogenic images of this island. On this day, what I was using was the Fotopro X-Rotator 95. Now, I've done a review on this rotator before and I'll put a link here. And the reason I want to talk about also why I was using this is because when we go out photographing, a lot of the time we just photograph in one direction, which is landscape. We're landscape photographers. But have you ever thought of just changing your direction to portrait orientation when you're out and about? Because sometimes an image might look so much better in portrait than it does in landscape, especially using a ultra-wide angle lens like the Viltrox 16mm, which I was using on that day. Why was I using an ultra-wide angle lens? Because I wanted to be up close to the island and I wanted all that detail. Also, with my Nikon 24 to 85mm lens, I wouldn't have been able to get these shots because there's a small rocky ledge on the northern side of this island and it doesn't jut out that much. And with my 24mm, I would have been way too close. I wouldn't have had all that detail. Now you might say, well, Charles, why don't you just use an L bracket? I've used an L bracket for donkey's years. I mean, like as far as I can remember. Fotopro gave me this X-Rotator 95 to test out. I realized that this is such a handy tool to use because I don't have to take the camera off the tripod, put it back into portrait and lock it back on. I don't waste that much time. This is in landscape orientation. I've just got a little lever on the left here and I just turn around, lock it in, and there it is. There's no need to take the camera off, put it back on. This is the gear that I was using on that day. And also a little plug for Fotopro. I'm also using a new little mini tripod. You've seen before when I've done these reviews, I've used a mini tripod that I've made myself. But Fotopro's seen that I was using this and they go, hey, we're going to send you one of our best little mini tripods that we sell. It is the XGO Mini 2. This is a great little tripod and I've used it with my Nikon Z6 II. Let's jump in and I'll show you the photos that I took, why I took them. And half of these photos were taken as long exposures. Because there was water movement around me, I wanted to see movement. Here are 3 photos, same focal length, which is 16mm, same shutter speed, same aperture, but I've angled the camera differently to show you that the outcome of your photo depends on how you photograph your scene. Do you photograph it head on? Do you put your subject to the third on the right or to the third on the left. Here you can see the differences. Here is to the right, here is center, and here is left. Can you see how your image changes, your composition changes? I just moved my bald head from right to left and it gave me a totally different composition. And why you should do this? On the day you might feel like, well, the one on the right looks best. I've got a bit of beach on the right hand side. It really looks nice. You won't take one from the left. And then when you get home, you look and you go like, I'd taken one with the phone and the one on the left looked so much better. So think about, without moving, just change your composition and you will see that your composition changes greatly, especially when you're shooting with an ultra wide angle lens. Here, I've rotated the camera into portrait orientation. Instead of going from left to right, it's gone from up to down. Because when we're shooting with ultra wide angle lens, you get quite a bit of distortion. And this is why I like shooting with an ultra wide angle lens in this sort of scenario. Look at the image on the left. Here, the camera is tilting up. I've got the foreground here very much in my face. The island looks all right, and you can see the trees are pointing up slightly. The one in the middle here, it's just about head on. Then the one on the right, I've tilted the camera down. So the island now is much shorter and I've distorted the rocks. Can you notice that the rocks on the right hand side look so much bigger than the rocks on the right? That's the effect of an ultra wide angle lens. So use that distortion to your advantage. Now I'm not saying you can't get similar images if you're just using a standard lens like my 24 to 85mm. It's just you're going to be shooting further back and the angle that you're going to have to use will be much greater, because you're going to have to distort the image a lot more at 24mm than at 16mm. Now these two images here, I've moved slightly back from where I was and I framed the island so that I had a lot more of the sandy beach on the right. Here, all I've done is just rotated the camera from the same spot using the X-Rotator 95 because I can quickly move between landscape and portrait. Now by April, the sun sets much quicker than it does in the middle of summer, so light was fading very fast. And you can see here by the aperture that I was already at 2 seconds, f8, ISO 200. And this first image here, you can see the wave has come fully in and all you can see is just a whitish area. There's no detail in there. Here, it's slightly better. You can see the waves now are going out. And this is the last image here when the wave had just about fully receded. And I looked at them and I thought, hang on, maybe I'm too close. I want to see that water movement. I want to see more of that water movement. How about I just back up a little bit? I know I'm going to get a lot more seen in my image. The island might look a bit smaller, but I want some foreground. I want to see those waves coming in or the waves going out. So I've moved back. These three images are exactly the same image, just edited differently or cropped differently. So edit one in 6x4 and then crop that same image as a 16x9 to make it look panoramic, or add a vignette to the image to make it look totally different so that you can look and say, well, okay, the one with the vignette might look different to the one that I haven't got the vignette, because adding a vignette changes your image so much. Here now are the last three images. I've rotated the camera into portrait orientation using the X-Rotator 95 and I've just shot 3 images, just wanting to get different wave movements. You can see from the left, there's hardly any water. The one in the middle, it's got some nice water, but the wave has just about stopped in front of me. And on the right, the wave has slowly gone out. And this is my best image from the last set of images that I've taken. It's shot in portrait orientation and I've just got the wave just receding and it's taking up most of the foreground, but it's still leaving me a bit of sand. So I hope you can see that not all is lost. If you go out to photograph a sunset and you don't have the actual sunset in your image, and sometimes you will end up with better images by not including the sun in your image, especially if the sun is flat, or if where the sun is setting, it's just a bland area, like where I was shooting on that day. It was just a very bland area. There was just small shrubbery in the front. I was hoping for clouds, but in the end, I'm glad there was no clouds around because nature forced me to photograph in this direction. And I walked away with some very nice images. If you like the video, Give it a big thumbs up, stay safe, enjoy your landscape photography, and I'll see you next time when I'm out and about.